Life moves fast. We all feel it. Our schedules are packed, and our time with God ends up taking a back seat. But what if I told you real faith isn't about balance, it's about rhythm? Today, we're going to be talking about how we can actually grow our faith in the middle of a life that is full of chaos. Hey, I'm Cole Phillips, the lead pastor of the Connection Church. I'm really excited to be here with you for the Connect podcast today. And I'm here with my good friend, Rowdy. Rowdy, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, man, right now as we're filming this, it is raining. It is pouring. It's crazy out there.
This is the old man snoring. Do you know?
You know what? Let me tell you this. You know how Rowdy loves talking with me because I always have a story.
Yes.
I am the old man who always has a story.
Oh, that's not what I was referring to.
It's raining. It's pouring. The old man is snoring. Went to bed, bumped his head, couldn't get up in the morning. And I was singing that in the shower at my grandma's house. And my grandmother, devout Christian woman, she's like, "Now, honey, you better not sing that song because the old man," I said, "Why not?" She said, "The old man is God. And when it's raining, what you're saying is that God is sleeping." And so it kind of put a damper on that nursery rhyme and that song for me. Not quite sure. I've never looked into it to see if that's what that is about or not. Yeah, but yeah, it kind of takes the fun out of that little song. But I've heard that that Muslims will not comment on the weather for fear of offending Allah. That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's true either. We're full of misinformation today, or maybe true information that you can hear nowhere else but on the Connect podcast.
Yeah, let's go for that one.
So today we're going to be talking about how rhythm shapes your life and why balance is really a myth. It's not possible. We're going to talk about some practical tips to grow your faith in the middle of a world that is moving ever faster. So here's what I want you to do. Do this with me, Rowdy. And we're not pledging allegiance. But if you are watching, you're listening, and you're not driving, you can do this. Put your hand right now on your heart and feel. Well, first take a breath and feel the thump 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 of your heart. You feel that? Yeah, that's good to do. Your heart is beating, your blood is pumping, and so our hearts beat at 60 to 100 beats per minute. And so our time management issues are really heart issues. They're really heart issues. You know, when you listen to music, standard common tempo is 120 beats per minute. And if a song is, because that's double your natural heart rate.
Right.
And so if a song is faster than 120 beats per minute, then we feel it as being fast. If it's slower than 120 beats per minute, we feel it as being slow. That's kind of how we measure songs. You feel your breath. Here we go. Breathe in and breathe out. Those are things that our body does without even thinking about it. We do it naturally, but it's all in a rhythm. And that's the way God designed us. He designed our bodies that way. He designed the universe that way. Everything moves in rhythm. There's a rhythm in creation. So if you look all the way back to Genesis 2:2, and let me tell you, everything comes back to God's created order. Genesis 1 and 2. In Genesis 2:2, It says, by the seventh day, God had finished the work he'd been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. So God created everything there is in 6 days. He rested on the seventh day. He established a rhythm of 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. And a lot of the ways that we mark time, we mark our year, all of this is based on the way God set the planets in motion, and we mark time by the cycle of the moon, and a year we know, is one trip around the sun. And so Psalm chapter 8 verse 3 says, when I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, God's handiwork, he set all this in place, and he set creation in motion. And now the world is in motion, now our life is in motion. And what we need to do is we need to keep in rhythm. We need to keep in step with creation. So we got to think about these questions. I want you, as you're listening, to think about this. How do you find the right rhythm? How do you find the right pace of life, that natural pace? Yeah,
that's good. That's a good question. It's different for everybody, certain seasons.
That's true.
I think it's important. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about time management.
Yeah.
And, you kind of, I call it the airport rush, where you feel like you get there, and maybe it's just me and my family, but you get there and you're like, oh, where do I go? And he was asking about meetings. Like, do you feel like you're jumping from one meeting to the next or the next thing? And, there's been seasons and moments in my life where I do that, but people pick up on that. And so summertime, knowing in my mind, like summer is busier for us around the church, and it doesn't ever stop for us at the church.
Yeah.
But there are seasons and moments where this is a good time to pause. This is a good time to go on a vacation. It's a good time to take some days off or whatever. So you definitely have to go in with, and it's different for everybody in their schedule. But I think that's been something for me that's like, trying not to walk through life with the airport rush.
Yeah, speaking of the airport, I mean, time just works differently at the airport. You can get there early, but then you rush to check in, check your bags, get through security, get to your gate, all of the things. It's just crazy how time is so different at different places at different times. I think for people, some people, they seem to be able to move at a very rapid pace. But I think, a lot of times that's an illusion as well. And let's talk about this illusion of balance, because people will say, well, you just got to balance your time. You got to have a balanced life.
Yep.
And, balance would mean that you give equal time to your family, to your work, to God, to hobbies, your health, all of these things, and that's not realistic, and it's even not necessary. So you don't want to find the right balance. You want to find the right rhythm. How does everything fit in? And that's just about priorities, right? Because some things are just simply more important than other things, and so the things that we give weight to are the things that really matter the most. What Jesus says in Matthew 6:33 is, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. So God says the first thing is his kingdom. That's what's most important, which raises an interesting question, I think, because we think of, well, God gets Sunday, right? The Lord's Day, the Sabbath, he gets 1 day a week, and we get the other 6. How's that not right, Rowdy? I'll let you speak into that.
How is that not right?
Yeah.
To not rest?
Well, to say God only gets 1 day a week.
Oh yeah. I think it just God should get the entirety of your life.
Sure.
And he should be at the forefront and the center of everything that you do. Do we get in a fast-paced season? And you talked about that this past Sunday in your message, but the busyness, right? The busy highway, or I don't know the terminology.
Busy boulevard.
Busy boulevard, where you get moving he gets on the back burner for a little bit. And I think that is bound to happen, I think, on some level. But to give him one day, it's not that it's not, I hate to say not right, but it is not the way he had designed it. God had created you to be giving purpose. He's giving us purpose, and so we're following him with everything in our lives, in every area of our life. And so to just give him one day.
Well, you know how I like to look at it? I wish I had this illustration here with us, but you got a basket. So I've done this before. This is a great idea. You can do this at YNG. You'll blow the kids' minds.
Yes.
I've got the basket, and then I have different objects that represent different parts of our life. You put in a little pillow to represent the time you sleep, and you put in a book to represent your school, maybe, an apple to represent your eating, whatever you do, put in friends, all of that. And then you take maybe a Bible and you say, okay, then somehow you're trying to shove that Bible in there. And that's,
right.
Or a cross, that represents God. And in reality, check this out. It's the basket itself, that represents God. And then getting the priorities in, you've seen that before. You get your priorities in first and everything else falls into place. But God should be central and first in all of those areas of your life. What we eat, when we sleep, the whole thing. So there's just a difference in looking at it as finding the right rhythm, as you say. Maybe the tempo can change as things happen in life, and so there's different times are going to require different amounts of time at different seasons in your life. And so you want to, because you've got to find that pace that will sustain. And I love what Jesus says in Matthew 11:28, and this is actually from the Message paraphrase. I try to stay away from it, but I just always come back to it here at Matthew 11:28, that says, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." The phrase that I always remember and hold on to is the unforced rhythms of grace. And so we just, Jesus says that as we're walking with him, I think at that point it's that we don't need to be stressed out, because he's walking with us and he's carrying, the loads that we sometimes want to take on and carry.
Yeah, I think that's so good, that question, are you worn out? I think that's so good, right? In these different seasons of life, we can be so guilty of one, like we're talking about, like keeping God at the center, right? Just going to church one day, maybe that, like, I wasn't able to get into my Bible this week, or I wasn't able to pray today. I think you get so busy, but you can just be also, because you haven't done those things, you've been walking around and stress adds up, or feelings or emotions or whatever the thought is, and you don't give those things to God, and so I think that's where that worn out comes in, where before you know it, not only have you not been going to church, or have struggled to get into the Word, or haven't prayed, but you've been doing life alone, not giving it to God, but also the people that he's placed around you in your life, and that can be hard. That can be really hard with just being out of sync rhythmically too. There, I think out of community and not in the right place with God. So I think those are dangerous places to be, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask you, before we get into this, was, I remember, and as just a question on your rhythm in this, and I don't really know what the question is necessarily, but I remember going to you at one point, and I was doing the youth ministry podcast, and maybe people don't know this about you, but you're like a content machine. You're constantly putting stuff out. And I remember I go to you and I'm like, man, I just don't know. And I remember you just like looked at me like, come on, man. Like, just, and I just don't know how you do that so well. Like, how do you continue to get messages ready, get ready to do, weddings and counsel people and hear people out and still have time, that rhythm. Like, what is one key thing that is, do you get my question? What is one key thing that's allowed you to have a healthy rhythm?
You kind of shifted there at the very last part of the question, because for me, it's that I've literally been doing this, since I was 18 at least, or I'm even thinking back when I tell you that illustration of the basket and the stuff, that was probably from when I was in high school, and I was leading a prayer meeting before school at the church that was right next to the school. So, I would hope that just over time, just having done this for so long, but the temptation is that you're leading out of, or you're ministering out of memory and not out of what God is doing right now. And so you also have to, yes, I've learned some things, but I always have to keep it fresh.
Right.
And that comes from time with God. It comes from continuing to learn. It comes from spending time with, younger guys like you and Bobby and my daughters and all of that. So it keeps, because the world, God's word never changes. The world around us and the needs always change. So you always want to be speaking into the needs of the moment. One of the things that I did, back now, it's been nearly 10 years ago, was I started some personal habits of health and eating, and just changing some of those things in my life, which has given me more energy, I suppose, and better structure to my life. So that's helped as well.
And so consistency.
Yeah.
Boil it down to it. And you were I don't know if you're running as much as you're lifting weights a lot more now, but you had started originally with running. Is that? Yeah.
So let's talk about running. I just wanted to tell you that I actually got my bicycle down from my, I hang it on my garage ceiling, and it's been up there for like 3 years. So this weekend I got my bike down, aired up the tires, and I rode it about 5 miles, it was fun, but really running was the thing that I initially got into, was running. And I hear you're somewhat of a runner yourself.
Used to be. I don't run as much anymore, unless it's to the Chick-fil-A line or something.
Yeah, tell me about your running days.
I ran in middle school. I ran track. I ran hurdles. And then in high school, ran track, played basketball, played football for a little bit until it conflicted with some things. And then really got into running probably like my junior year of high school. I ran cross country my senior year, and then ultimately would go on to run the D3, but collegiately. And it's a lot of fun that I never want to have again.
Yeah. It is fun, and I love it because, you're out and, just kind of in outside, in the great outdoors, and breathing the fresh air. And so it's really invigorating. But, in order to run, and I've never run a marathon, but I've run, 5Ks, 10Ks, things like that.
Sure.
But, shoes are really important.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you have a shoe of preference, or?
I did like Nike a lot until I got serious into it, and I realized that they're not the best running shoe. I had some
you just like
A6.
You liked them because you like the brand,
right? And I played basketball, and that was kind of the go-to.
Okay.
And just the mileage, I had terrible ankles, and so they didn't have great ankle support. And so A6, Brooks, those are kind of the go-to for me, at least. I love Brooks. I do. That's why I threw that in there.
So I've gotten a new pair of Brooks every year for since I started running.
Yeah.
And I pretty much just wear them to run in.
Yeah.
So running, hey, you came in, you talked to me.
Yes.
It's
been a long week. No.
Last week?
Yeah, it was last week.
Yeah,
last week.
about a young man named Ethan. Tell me about Ethan Strand.
Yeah, so Ethan Strand, I think it was by the time we had seen it, I saw the records pop up, but he is a track and field runner for North Carolina. University of North Carolina will forgive him for that. But he just recently, a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, posted the third fastest time in indoor track for the mile, and I believe it was 3 minutes and 48 seconds and 32 milliseconds.
Yeah,
fast.
Yeah,
and I was just pumped to show everybody in the office. I feel like I showed far too many.
It was awesome to watch because he was pacing himself for most of the race.
Yes,
just kind of solid pace.
Yes,
and then he just broke at the end.
Yeah, I knew the outcome, and wife and I watched it at home the day before I came and showed you guys. And you know the outcome, but for 3 laps, you're like, okay, I know he's going to win, but when is he going to win?
Yeah.
It was just beautiful to see.
So I think we have a little video of this we're going to show you.
Yeah.
Check this out. This is him running.
The record is long gone. Ethan Strand with the win.
Hi, my name's Ethan Strand. I run track and field here at North Carolina, and I just broke the collegiate 3K record. When we talk about these track races, it's actually pretty personalized. So what Coach is telling to me is not usually what Coach is telling to Parker. We've planned out, like, okay, Yassine, the guy who runs for Arkansas, he's probably going to go up to the front and press after the pacer steps off, and just make sure you are there going into the last 2,000 meters. Coach Milt trusts us that if we're there with 1,000 meters to go, we're there at the end of the race. He trusted one of us to come away with the win. So this is coming up on a lap to go. Parker really started pressing here. As you can see, we got rid of Yassine and Gary. And lap to go, I didn't see the clock, so I didn't know quite how fast we were running. Parker really pressed. There's a little gap that showed up, and he knew I was there because you can see him peeking over his shoulder over every corner, but I knew I just needed to stay close. And right about here, 50 to go, I didn't know if I was going to get him. He was really keeping away from me, but as we crossed the line, I outleaned him a little bit. Racing against Parker, you know he's going to try to go a little early, and I had that in my mind, so I knew if I just needed to stay close. You get in these longer events, and if Parker goes, it's hard to beat him.
All right, that's so cool, man. He races against and runs with his brother.
Yep.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that, what we can learn from that, and what we can learn about how to pace ourselves for our race, filled with grace, following Jesus. And, in Hebrews 12, verse 1, it says this, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." So let's talk about, we use the word pace, okay, like I like to do. And the first thing that we need to do is to stay pure. Stay pure.
That's good.
Because, he says, strip away everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us. So there's some things in life that just entangle us, that just will trip us up. A lot of it is sin, the sin in our life.
That's good.
Right? If you're always looking behind you because you're worried about getting caught, you're not going to have your eyes looking forward.
Yeah.
Sin will cause you to stumble and push you out of the race.
Yeah.
So often. And it's not just sin, but it's also distractions, things that just weigh us down as we get really caught up in sort of the 24-hour news cycle, the things that we worry about, the cares of the day. Trying to think of some other things. Scrolling, weigh you down.
That's huge.
It will weigh you down. So there's a lot of things that we need to strip off, so that we can be free and clear to run. And what you're doing, we talk about this. You're cutting certain things out of your life, but it's not just for the sake of cutting them out. It's what are you replacing it with?
That's good.
So we're going to replace it with the Word of God. We're going to replace it with, with talking, listening to God through prayer. A lot of ways that we can keep ourselves pure, because that really that's where a lot of our emotional baggage comes from our regrets, our guilt, all the things that Jesus came to give his life for, so that we could live freely and, as he says, lightly, in that way. You have any thoughts on that?
I was just trying to think through, like, personally, just seasons where, I just recently kind of coming out of this thing, my wife and I have kind of made our bed a space where it's a phone-free zone, which I think sounds like, okay, but like it's so easy just to. Yeah,
I don't think that's normal.
And for a while, like that was how I feel like.
I mean, it's normal. I don't think it's common.
Right. But I think for a while, I kind of, as a child, like put myself to bed on YouTube. And it just kind of like, that's where I found the rest. That's where I found it. It sounds dumb,
YouTube
but like,
didn't start until like 2008 or something.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
but
wild.
This is 2 months ago, where I'm literally like, that's the only way that I can go to sleep is watching a YouTube video or whatever, and just kind of scrolling aimlessly instead of finding rest in God. Or here's a crazy thought: talking to my wife, like that's important.
It's
so
good.
Just personally, that's some stuff for sure. Prioritizing the spiritual side of that, praying with my wife instead of scrolling on YouTube and going to bed that way, I think is far better. So just calling myself out.
Oh, that's good, man. Well, you're also helping us because a lot of people deal with the same kinds of things. Let's talk about the A, and that is have ambition. As we look, we usually think of ambition as a negative thing a lot of times, but ambition is kind of like the desire of our hearts. What are we pursuing after? That we're pursuing after the right thing instead of the wrong thing. Because that really is invigorating. When you're running with purpose and you're living out your purpose, we say, you don't get burned out when you're doing what you were created to do.
That's good.
And so you have that godly ambition, and what this says in the scripture is we're running the race. He says, run the race that's marked out for you. When you're running, run the race marked out for us. When you're running, and I know this from, some experience, it's really easy to get really worried about the people beside you and the people who are passing you, the people that you're passing. We start playing that comparison game, and it's futile. It doesn't matter because you don't know what's up ahead. Right. You don't know where they came from. Yeah. And you got to run your race at your pace, because, at the end of the day, you're the one that's responsible for making it all the way to the finish line. Yeah. And so if you're comparing yourself to this guy over here, and you start, speeding up to catch up with him, well, you may be burning yourself out at that point, right?
Yeah, you're wasting more energy.
Yeah.
I think at that point too. And you're set out in Ethan Strand's case, or any runner who's running a physical race, you go into a time, and that's what he was talking about, the training and the watching the film and the strategy in that. You go in with a set, like, this is the goal that I'm going for. In this race, I'm going to hit this. And when you do any extra little movement, right, which looks like this, how close are they? Yeah. There's a clip in there where he's trying to go inside, like all that's extra energy that could affect how you mess up. There was just Eagles won the Super Bowl. Shout out the Eagles. Yeah. About a month ago, they were resting and getting ready. This is the regular season, one of the last two games, and Saquon Barkley was out. He had said, I think, to the coach that we were going to break the records, and so he wanted to keep him in so he could break a regular season record. And Saquon Barkley, the starting running back for the Eagles, told coach, like, no, I'm okay. Let the young guys play. Like, let them get their experience. Well, next play, one of the backup running backs goes and he finds a hole and is running. Well, what he does, looks up at the Jumbotron to see who's behind him, slows him down, gets tackled, and on the sideline, he's kind of beating himself over. Where are they? How are they? Well, now you didn't run the race that you were set out to run, and he was on the field getting on the sideline, getting upset. But kind of a cool story that we do that all the time. What do they got going on? What do they got? Well, now we're distracted from.
We're trying to see ourselves on the big screen.
Absolutely,
or on our little screens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he said, stay pure.
Yes.
Have healthy, godly ambition.
Right.
And stay Christ-focused. That's the C. Fix our eyes on Jesus, the author, the finisher of our faith.
That's good.
Fix your eyes on the finish line, not the temporary distractions. There's so many things that will, especially you have some, ADD, or ADHD, which I think most of us in our quick attention, span world deal with at some level, where we're like squirrel, and you're distracted, and yet Jesus calls us keep our eyes on Him, and not on all these other distractions. And one of the things we know is that where your eyes are looking, and where your head is pointed, that's where your feet are going to go. That's where your body goes, wherever your head is looking. So if you keep your eyes on Jesus, you're going to be headed toward Him.
Yeah.
I think also on this is huge on the run of life, and the run. When you're just out running, the playlist matters a lot. To me, it matters a lot. I know a lot of people love running with a playlist and having the right soul music. By soul music, I don't just mean like Motown, but I mean like just music that feeds your soul.
That's good.
And so what are you pumping in to your mind? Again, a lot of garbage out there that is going to distract you, stress you out.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure we're feeding our soul and our heart and our mind with the good stuff, with the Word of God, worship music, whatever that is true, that is pure, that is lovely.
It's good.
Yeah.
Love that. Playlist is important.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a running playlist, just hit me up. I'll help you out. Okay. and then the E is stay encouraged. Stay encouraged. So we said be pure, godly ambition, stay Christ focused, and then be encouraged.
Yes.
And that means don't run alone. You're not on your own. You need a running buddy to run with. And it's been said this has been said, if you want to run fast, run alone. If you want to run far, run together.
Yes.
And so, you can run for a little while, maybe very fast, but you're going to burn out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But you want to go the distance, you need some people beside you. And faith is not a solo sport. It is a group sport that we need to be running together, and that's what the church is all about.
That's good.
That we're here to come alongside of you. We're here to support you. And that's why we have, connection groups, and we have ministries, we have ministry teams, all kinds of ways for you to get connected with other people who aren't perfect, who don't have it all figured out, but we're just all running in the same direction, and we're running toward Jesus together.
Yep.
So I would just encourage you, as far as the takeaways from today, to make sure if you want that pace for the race, you got to prioritize spending time with God. Of course, right now we're doing the NT90X.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Oh, well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned playlist, and I should have said it then, but if you want a running playlist, like a physical, like something to listen to, go to you. And if you want a running race of life playlist, we're doing the NT90X right now. It'd be great. It's not too late to jump in.
Yeah. It's never too late to jump in, but we're going through the New Testament in 90 days.
Come on.
And what that's done is that's become more of a priority for me than say some other podcast or something like that. That I'm making that time, starting your day with God, so that you have an awareness of Him and His presence and His purpose throughout your day, finding that right rhythm for your day. And not dragging, not pushing too far and too fast, but the right rhythm. Cut out the distractions, and there's certain things you're just gonna have to say no to.
Yes.
And that's okay. It's hard to say no, but some things you gotta say no. I'm not gonna watch that. I'm not gonna go there. Whatever that is, and then making sure you are staying active with your church family.
Yes.
So important that you don't run alone. And also, another encouragement, just make sure that if you're enjoying what we're laying down here and what we're sharing, that you share this, you talk it up with your friends, and share it on social media so that other people can benefit from our conversations here together. I want to challenge you as we close this way. Don't waste your energy, okay? We do so many things that in the long run, it's not that they're bad. They just don't matter much for eternity.
Right.
And so I've got to think, how many things did I worry about that never happened, and they just stole my energy? I need to be more focused on my race and what God has called me to do, and be more intentional that I am keeping pace with God's rhythm that He's set in place for my life. And here's the thing, we say, I just don't have enough time. The reality is you have exactly enough time to do what God created you to do.
That's good.
You're going to be able to do that. Don't try to live a balanced life. Get rhythm. Get in God's rhythm, and you will have that energy, and you will be able to go the distance. So I want to encourage you with that. You have anything else for us, Rowdy?
No, I'm excited to see all that God's going to do in our lives this week, and excited to keep pushing forward.
All right, let's travel together at that right pace. And I look forward to seeing you really soon. So glad that you joined us today. Look forward to seeing you next week.